Southern California, good afternoon, and welcome to another edition of the SoCal Sports Show. Today we have ourselves quite a show, as we have a lot to get to in the world of SoCal sports, such as the Chargers barely getting by the Atlanta Falcons, as this week they've got a big challenge. They've got the big, bad Kansas City Chiefs. Can the Chargers do the unthinkable? Also, the Rams got back on track with a nice win over the New Orleans Saints, but they have a big challenge on their hands as they host the Buffalo Bills. And the LA Galaxy are playing their biggest match of the season this week, as tomorrow they host the New York Red Bulls in the MLS Cup. Find out how the Galaxy went from the worst team in the MLS to now playing for an MLS Cup. They're sixth, might I add. Also, the Lakers have been terrible. They've lost 6 out of their last 8 games. What is going on with the purple and gold? Who is to blame? Also, USC football lost a tough one against Notre Dame, but UCLA was able to end off its season with a nice win over Fresno State. All that and more here on the SoCal Sports Show. This is Teran Rodriguez bringing you another edition of the SoCal Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. And welcome one and welcome all to another edition of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. Thank you all for joining me on this beautiful Friday afternoon, Friday morning, Friday evening, Friday wherever you are listening from. Either way, you have made your way to episode 204 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. And without any further delay, let us begin. But first and foremost, the SoCal Supreme Sports Show would not be where it's at without IE Sports Radio providing the platform to go live on StreamYard. Please do follow IE Sports Radio on several different social media platforms such as X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Also, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. We would greatly appreciate it. We just surpassed 300 subscribers, and with your help, we can try to get to 400, maybe even 500 by the end of this calendar year. So make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube at IE Sports Radio. Also, make sure to check us out on other podcast platforms such as Apple Podcasts, Spreaker, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Podchaser, Audible, Podcast Addict, GeoSavin, Castbox, Deezer, Amazon Music, the list goes on and on. Make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for all of your sports news, our blog, our page dedicated to each podcast, such as the SoCal Supreme Sports Show, our merchandise shop, where we can cut all sorts of t-shirts, tank tops, and other IE Sports Radio swag, especially hoodies, because this is the weather for sweater weather. Make sure to check out our Hall of Fame. I am IE Sports Radio Hall of Famer inductee number 10. And make sure to check out the website for so much more. For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Thank you to everyone for all of your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that sports. Before we get on into the SoCal sports action, we have to tip our hat or pay word to our sponsors, Plant Jerky, Premium Brisket Beef Jerky, and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Also, we need to talk to y'all about what IE Sports Radio is all about. So without any further delay, let's do this.
IE Sports Radio fans, This show is brought to you by Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky. Planet Jerky is the official jerky of the 2022 California League champion Lake Elsinore Storm, Single A affiliate of the San Diego Padres. This all brisket jerky has gluten-free options, contains no MSG, no sodium nitrate, is low in sugar, and high in protein. Go to their website at planetjerky.net and follow them on Instagram at Planet Jerky. Planet Jerky, the jerky that's on a whole other planet.
Hey there, IE Sports Radio fans. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. You just finished your very own wedding or baby shower invitations and you're looking for that extra special touch? Maybe you just wrote a letter to a relative or a friend and you want to add to their smile when they receive it. Then seal the deal with Cecilia's handmade sealing wax stamps for your invitations, letters, and gifts. You bring the deal, we'll bring the seal. You can find them on Instagram at sealthedeal_wax stamps and on Facebook, Seal the Deal Wax Seals.
For the last 10 years, IE Sports Radio has been bringing you amazing content ranging from interviewing legendary athletes, coaches, and other authorized media personnel to building tailor-made shows dedicated to all major sports cities around the country. Make sure to follow us at IE Sports Radio on X, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube to keep up with the latest in sports and with all of our shows. Also, make sure to check out our daily updated website at iesportsradio.com. At iesportsradio.com, you can see our daily show schedule and check out all of our show pages with personal bios to learn a little bit more about each of our awesome hosts. In addition to our show pages, you can catch the IE Sports Radio blog, Hall of Fame, Fans of the Month page, and our merchandise shop including t-shirts, tank tops, caps, long sleeves, hoodies, and more. For now over a decade here at IE Sports Radio, we've continued to be by the fans, for the fans, and we thank you all for your support and for making IE Sports Radio your direct feed for all that is sports.
That's right, everybody. Definitely check out our sponsors, Planet Jerky Premium Brisket Beef Jerky and Seal the Deal Wax Seals by Cecilia B. Also, make sure to check out our website, iesportsradio.com, for everything that is sports, for all things that is sports, and all things more. You won't be disappointed. And make sure to follow the SoCal Supreme Sports Show on social media at SoCal Show IEXR on X. And also make sure to follow me personally if you want to on X, as well as I'm at Teran Rodriguez 1. And without any further delay, let's do this. Let's get on into the SoCal sports action as start with some NFL, as the Chargers had themselves quite the game as they were able to squeak on by the Atlanta Falcons. They actually won 17-13, which is actually a mistake that not only I made, but someone else made on NBC. But it is what it is. But it's going to quickly fix that right now. Boom. Yeah, Chargers squeak on by against the Atlanta Falcons 17-13. So this felt like such a weird game. It was another one of those weird games where the Chargers offense just could not score a whole lot. And actually settling for field goals. They actually had all field goals. They actually had 3 field goals, and then they had a touchdown, but more on that later. But yeah, this was one of those weird games where the Chargers, their offense just wasn't too flashy. But I will say, Ladd McConkey is becoming more and more of a great wide receiver. He actually led the team in receiving yards. He was actually Justin Herbert's favorite wide receiver, which kind of concerns me just because the Chargers obviously have more wide receivers. They've got Quentin Johnston. They've got Joshua Palmer. They got a bunch of tight ends. Well, Will Dissly's – yeah, no, they have Will Dissly. Hayden Hurst is on IR. They've got Will Dissly, though. But, yeah, this felt like an odd game if you ask me. Like, early on, the Chargers defense, I will say, looked very stout. It was pretty darn good if you ask me. A little more on that later. But the Falcons got on the board first with a rushing touchdown from Bijan Robinson. And then after that, the Chargers got a field goal from Cameron Dicker, 45-yard field goal. So after the one quarter, it was Falcons leading 7-3. And then the Chargers defense really shut out the Falcons. They actually, I think they recorded 2 interceptions in the first half against Kirk Cousins. Either way, oh no, it was just 1 interception. It was just 1 interception, and that was actually courtesy of Tahib Still. Yes, Tahib Still. The Chargers are so banged up at the cornerback position. They have to sign this guy onto their roster, and he's actually making an impact. Unfortunately for the Chargers, they just couldn't really turn that into offense as they got a 51-yard field goal early in the quarter. Suddenly, it was now 7-6. And then late in the quarter, the Chargers were able to get another field goal from Cameron Dicker. This one from 34 yards out. So it's now 9-7 in favor of the Chargers. The Chargers defense held strong on the final drive from the Falcons, making sure they did not get any points, which that's going to come in key. So then to start the third quarter, the Chargers actually, I don't understand this. So they actually were going to punt, and then they ran a fake punt with J.K. Scott, and he was 1 yard short, which really sucks. It was very frustrating. It's like the Chargers very rarely run trick plays, if not fake punts, and that was the time to run a fake punt. Come on, Chargers. Anyway, but thankfully for the Chargers, they held the Falcons to a field goal, 41-yard field goal from former Charger kicker Younghoe Koo. So, yeah, and I know there was a few questionable calls. There was a few calls that the Falcons got away from, but I don't really like to blame the officials. But thankfully for the Chargers, they actually managed to get up. They actually caught a lucky break. They actually punted, and suddenly it's looking like the Falcons are going to drive down the field and score a touchdown. But Tahib Still, the guy that the Chargers just recently signed, recorded a pick 6, which was absolutely phenomenal. That was the big game changer right there. And eventually the Chargers went up 15-10. They got a 2-point conversion, which was very smart, as Justin Herbert threw the most dangerous of passes, but he found the perfect window to Joshua Palmer. And suddenly the Chargers are up 17-10. And that you're gonna realize, and you all are gonna see that actually did matter. So that was the third quarter, and then the Falcons actually booted in a short field goal to end the quarter. It was a 26-yard field goal, so 17-13 in favor of the Chargers going into the fourth quarter. Then the fourth quarter got weird. Nobody could really do anything offensively. It's like both defenses really came to play. It was frustrating. And every time the Chargers had like a big stop, they would always get whistled. And this is kind of the reason why I said I don't really like to blame the officials. I mean, I get the questionable calls, but it's like the Chargers should know better than that. So, yeah, Chargers couldn't score to save their lives, which really was frustrating. But thankfully for them, they were able to chew up some clock in that fourth quarter. I really hated that. I really, really, really hate. This was such one of those. Again, it was such a weird game where you just gotta wonder why are the Chargers just finding ways to like play weird and not, because if this were if the Chargers had some assembly of a full team, like obviously missing J.K. Dobbins hurts and missing a few other guys hurts, they would obviously have a better shot at winning this game. But they turn the ball over on downs. Kirk, and then the Falcons are driving down the field, and I'm thinking, okay, this is bad. And all they just need is a touchdown, and then they're up. But suddenly, Kirk Cousins throws his third interception, and he just threw it right into the breadbasket. I'm not sure who he threw it to or who picked it off, but it was Am I reading this correctly? No, yeah, I'm reading this correctly. It is Mac May. Yeah, the Chargers picked off. It must have been another practice squad guy. Which, yeah, this was not Kirk Cousins' day. I will just say Kirk Cousins had a day to forget. He threw that third interception, and that could have been the difference between leading and trailing. And it sucks because the Chargers just were giving the Falcons all sorts of time and all sorts of chances to win the game, but they just weren't doing it. They just were literally finding ways to give the game away. And it's a bummer because the Falcons needed this game just as much as the Chargers do. And yeah, I'm still trying to find who this May guy is. It's not Drake May, and it's not Mac May, but that's injured reserve. Yeah, I really can't find this May guy, which is unfortunate, but it is what it is. Marcus May. So it looks like he was signed off of the Miami Dolphins practice squad, which it looks like the Chargers are stealing people from others practice squad. But again, this is just how thin the Chargers cornerback room is. They are just so terrible at the cornerback position. It's just disgusting. Like my boy Marcus is saying, he says, "Oh, the Chargers gear is disgusting." Oh, you're saying that, but at least it's not Rams gear, am I right? I digress, though. So yeah, Chargers get the interception in the end zone, and then unfortunately for the Chargers, they just can't do anything with it as they have to punt. So, and it was at that point where Ladd McConkey got injured. So Ladd McConkey was practically doing everything for the Chargers. He was their leading receiver as he had over 100 receiving yards. And I think he had almost over half of the receiving yards as a team. Like, that's just how desperate the Chargers were in terms of like throwing him the ball, or Justin Herbert was. But the Falcons had the ball, the chance for Kirk Cousins to try to redeem himself. Hence the word try, though. But it was like fourth and long. I think it was like 4th and 12. And Kirk Cousins was getting pressured. And then he just threw the ball, and Derwin James just picked it off, which ended the game right there. So yeah, Chargers receiving, they had 150 receiving yards. Ladd McConkey had 117. I don't know if I should be pleased by that or if I should be concerned about that, just because don't the Chargers have like other wide receivers on their team? I mean, it's not just Ladd McConkey. Their second leading receiver was Quentin Johnston, or as Chargers fans would like to refer him, Mr. Butterfingers, because he had those drops against Baltimore the previous week. But I digress. But yeah, Derwin James picked off Kirk Cousins, his 4th interception. Yeah, the Chargers forced 4 interceptions against Kirk Cousins. And I thought Kirk Cousins was supposed to be the bane of the Chargers' existence, but the Chargers were able to win 17-13, and this 2-point conversion was so crucial. Like, now we go back to the 2-point conversion where Justin Herbert hit Joshua Palmer for that big 2-point conversion. So if the Chargers don't convert that 2-point conversion, they're only at 15-13, and the Falcons only need field goals. Only need a field goal to win. Kind of like the Arizona Cardinals needed a field goal to win. So, and that was probably the reason why Kirk Cousins was going for the home run ball, or he just tried to find his receiver, his big-time receivers. But, yeah. Interestingly enough for the Falcons, their leading receiver was Ray McCloud, who had 95 receiving yards. Drake London had 9 receptions for 86 yards. I mentioned Drake London just because he's a former USC guy. Right on. And looking at the Falcons rushing attack, they had 116 rushing yards. So you add that up, that's over 350 yards of offense altogether. While the Chargers as a team, they had a little over 206 to be exact. So, yeah, the Chargers were so ugly offensively. It was bad. It seems like it's every week with the Chargers. It's either the defense is the problem and the offense has to ball out, or the offense is the problem and the defense has to ball out like they did against Atlanta. The Chargers just can't play. They can't have a fully balanced attack. Like, against a Falcons team that's so desperate and having Kirk Cousins just throw haymakers, they should be winning that game by 10 or more. Heck, they could win this by 3 scores if they really want to. But they kept the Falcons in this game so long that they almost had a game-winning drive. And thankfully, that 2-point conversion came in clutch. Yeah, it was kind of ugly, but I'm happy the Chargers got a win. In the Chargers' defense, that was a short week for the Chargers just because, well, for starters, they had that Monday night game where they saw their 4-game win streak get snapped by the Baltimore Ravens. Thankfully, their win over the Falcons gets them back on track and gets them so close to the playoffs. This was such a big win just because it's a road win. It was a team with a winning record. Chargers haven't had too many of those wins against winning teams. So, good job to the Chargers, but they got a lot to work on, especially offensively. Defenses can't bail out that team every single week. And Marcus says, crispy powder blue gang. Oh, yeah, you already know. And Ralph Kalise says, Teran, to help you, Marcus May. Yeah, I eventually found out that Marcus May was the one that had the interception. And he was a waiver wire pickup from the Dolphins, which the Dolphins just released him. So, thank you, Dolphins, for giving us Marcus May. And, yeah, I can't believe I'm actually thanking the Dolphins. It's so bad that the Chargers have freaking Eli Apple on their team. Eli Apple, the dude that was turned into burnt toast in the Super Bowl against the Rams when he was on the Cincinnati Bengals. It's that bad for the Chargers at the cornerback position. They need Asante Samuel back. And then it doesn't help that a majority of their corners are still on IR, and one other corner has a freaking concussion. Okay, but we got that ugly game out of the way. Now they remain on the road as they head to Kansas City to take on Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. And they actually are playing on Sunday Night Football. So this is the 3rd week in 4 weeks that the Chargers have been on primetime. 3 weeks ago, they were on Sunday Night Football because they flexed that in. 2 weeks ago, they were on Monday Night Football in the Harbaugh Bowl. And now this week, they are back on Sunday Night Football, which I think is pretty cool. I'm surprised the Chargers only got 3 primetime games to begin with, and they only got 1 Sunday Night Football game. Oh, and did I also mention that, and I think I did, the Chargers got one of their games flexed into Thursday Night Football, which I didn't think that was possible. But hey, they're on Thursday Night Football. It's against the Broncos, but this week they're playing the Chiefs. All right. Pretty sure everyone and their mamas is going to be rooting for the Chargers, hoping that the Chargers can pull off the win. If the Chiefs win, they're AFC West champions again. But if the Chargers win, they get closer and closer to clinching a playoff spot. Now, again, I don't expect the Chargers to clinch the AFC West or win the AFC West. But I do expect them to really keep up with the Chiefs. The Chiefs have kind of been one of the more interesting 11-1 teams. They are bound for the playoffs, but I feel this is kind of one of those games. I think the Chiefs are definitely beatable. And the Chargers really proved that in the first game. Problem was they didn't execute the 4th and goal play to perfection, and they eventually got stuffed. Now, this is going to be a tough matchup for the Chargers. They have to go on the road, but they always play the Chiefs close. So, I've been pondering about how the Chargers are going to go about this. They always play the Chiefs tough. They've been so drastically improved. A playoff spot could be on the line, especially since the Ravens they're on bye this week, and they just lost to the Philadelphia Eagles. And if the Chargers can keep up their winning, even though they're still in that tough gauntlet of a stretch, they could see themselves in the playoffs. And they were projected to only have like 6 wins according to Adam Rank. Ugh. But thankfully, they've surpassed that, and I knew the Chargers would have potential. The only thing is, would they be able to have the potential fast enough under Jim Harbaugh in a newfound offense? So, yeah, I've been thinking about how I'm going to predict this Chiefs game. And you know what? After deep thought and consideration, I have the Chargers winning 31-24. Now, you're probably wondering, Teran, you're a madman. I know everyone's probably going to say, Teran, you're crazy if you're thinking that the Chargers are going to beat the Chiefs. I feel it could happen. I think the Chargers actually are going to make it happen. All they just need to do is play smart football, which they have been playing smart football throughout most of the season, other than that fumble that they had against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football, and then the interception and fumble against the Carolina Panthers. The Chargers have played solid football. They just got to play really smart against Kansas City. Now, I'm hoping that this game isn't going to be too cold, because the Chargers haven't really had too many cold games as of late, which sucks, because that kind of could play into an X factor. But I still have the Chargers winning 31-24. I'm going to go bold. I don't care what anyone says. I know the Chargers don't have J.K. Dobbins. That's a big loss right there. But you know what? I don't care. I got confidence in the Chargers. I feel they're going to be the ones to figure out the Chiefs and play the complete full quarters and to stop all of the BS black magic that the Chiefs have. So give me the Chargers to beat the Chiefs. I'm going bold. I'm pulling for my team. The Chargers definitely need this win, because if they don't win this game, they're still in contention for the playoffs, but they have a pretty interesting 2-game stretch. They've got the Bucs, which they fared well against the NFC South, but let's see how they fare against Mike Evans. Like, that dude is legit good against the Chargers, and the Chargers secondary is completely decimated unless they get Asante Samuel Jr. back and all those other cornerbacks back. And then they've got the Broncos, which is a really short week game, which I'm not going to lie, that Broncos game really scares me. And if the Chargers don't play their cards right, they could be 8-7 by the time they reach week 17 and week 18. But for right now, I got the Chargers winning. Hopefully they do pull off the win, knock on wood. So let's see it happen, Chargers. All right, next up we got the Rams, which I'm sorry to have to – Marcus is probably going to hate me on. I'm hoping he's not listening for this part. Rams were able to wake up in the second half to beat the New Orleans Saints 21-14 as they moved to 6-6. This game was ugly with a capital U. Rams offense could not get anything going. And this was the first time in the Sean McVay era that the Rams were shut out in the first half. It was that bad. It was terrible. We thought the Chargers offense was inept. This was inept in the first half. They couldn't get any points whatsoever. Any. It was like Matthew Stafford had no time in the pocket, and this was just so concerning. Fortunately, the Rams were lucky to be down only by 6 because the Saints were just as well. Derek Carr slinging the rock for them. But thankfully for the Rams, they were able to wake up in the second half just because they finally realized, oh, wait, we have an offense. We could actually do something that the Saints can't. And boy, howdy, I'm pretty sure Saints fans were licking their lips when they saw the matchup against the Rams. They were thinking, okay, we're going to try to get some revenge against these boys because this was the elephant in the room when it comes to Saints versus Rams. The missed pass interference call in the NFC Championship back in 2018, the 2018-19 season. Yeah, so, well, I don't need to discuss that, but back to this game. So, yeah, let's jump it over into the second half. Second half, Rams finally got their you-know-what together as Kyron Williams rumbled on in for a 4-yard touchdown. And suddenly the Rams were up 7-6. It eventually was the score going into the fourth quarter. Rams got a touchdown from Demarcus Robinson, which thankfully he learned his lesson. And thankfully Sean McVay was able to forgive him after he was caught with a DUI speeding at like 100-ish miles per hour. So suddenly the Rams were up 14-6, and it was looking pretty good. This was an early touchdown. It was like the first play of the fourth quarter. But the Saints were able to respond as Derek Carr threw a 28-yard touchdown pass to Marquez Valdes-Scantling. And then Derek Carr threw the 2-point conversion to Dante Pettis when suddenly the game is tied at 14-14. And then sometime in the fourth quarter, it was like near the halfway point, it was Puka Nacua catching a 7-yard touchdown pass from Matthew Stafford. And suddenly the Rams were up 21-14. But late in the game, the Rams defense needed to come up big. And they had their bright spots. Eventually they forced a turnover on downs against Derek Carr as Braden Fisk was able to get to Carr, force incompletion, if not a fumble. And eventually the Rams were able to take over and end the game right there, which was good stuff on the Rams' part. So Rams are 6-6. New Orleans is not an easy place to win at, but thankfully for the Rams, they were able to get the dub. Now they've got a tough 2-game stretch. So this Sunday, they're back home against the Buffalo Bills, who have been red hot. But they also have a short week as they play on Thursday Night Football against the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara. So I'm just going to keep it a buck. Rams are not winning this. They're not beating the Bills. If they find a way to beat the Bills, they deserve the playoffs. But with how the Rams have been playing against these teams that are more superior than them, I've learned my lesson. The Rams are not beating the Bills. Josh Allen and the Bills are on fire. I mean, Josh Allen has been phenomenal. The dude had a freaking receiving, rushing, and passing touchdown last Sunday against the 49ers. Granted, the Niners were banged up altogether, offensively and defensively, but ain't no way the Rams are finding a way to win. If they find a way to beat the Bills, then the Rams deserve the playoffs. But I have the Rams losing to the Bills. I'm going to make it a little respectable, 31-21. I think the Rams can keep up with the Bills, but I just think Josh Allen is somewhat of a demigod. The dude will probably have another like 4 touchdown game, either on the ground or in the air or both. So I just think the Bills are going to be too much for the Rams. But Rams have to head to Santa Clara to play the Niners, which that has a lot on the line right there. The Niners play the Chicago Bears this Sunday, which I think they could win that one on paper, but with how banged up the Niners are defensively and on the offensive line, I wouldn't be surprised if they found another way to lose. But I've been thinking about this one, and you know what? I got the Rams winning this matchup against the Niners 28-20. Now, this one's going to be an interesting one. It's going to be in Santa Clara, but the Niners have been so vulnerable. They keep finding different ways to lose, whether it's blowing leads or just getting blown out. Like their last 2 games against the Packers and the Bills, they've been blowouts. Now, granted, those 2 teams are really good, but the Niners as a whole, they have looked horrible. They've looked awful. It's just so concerning because the Niners were obviously supposed to be the class of the NFC, and then they got decimated by injuries. Christian McCaffrey's out for the season. They've got Jordan, I forget his last name, but the backup running back for the Niners, he's out for a little while. I mean, Nick Bosa, I think, is still out. Trent Williams is out. So this is very concerning for the Niners. It's a miracle the Niners are still in contention for the NFC West. The NFC West is so bad, the Rams even have a chance. And the Rams could get help this week if they take down, or if we get to see the Cardinals beating the Seahawks. But that's a big if. The Cardinals need to win at Seattle. But yeah, looking at the Niners, Jordan Mason is his name. Jordan Mason. So yeah, I was blanking on his name. Oopsie. But yeah, I'm confident in terms of the Niners, just because the Niners, look at their wins and losses. Obviously, they had the win over the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. They had the narrow win against the Bucks, and they beat the Seahawks earlier in the season. They beat the Patriots, which was obvious. They beat the Jets, which was obvious. Like, the Niners are fighting for their playoff lives too, and whoever wins the NFC West is going to be the lone representative from the NFC making it to the playoffs, because the NFC West stinks. We got to keep it a buck right there. The NFC West is not good. It's actually a pretty competitive division, but when you look at it in a deeper dive, it's bad, dude. It's really bad, which I find funny, but it is what it is, and the Niners are just that. They've taken a step back, and soon they're going to have to deal with the contracts of some of these players. Yeah, Jordan Mason's on injured reserve. Christian McCaffrey's on injured reserve. Elijah Mitchell is still on injured reserve. Brandon Ayuk obviously had that season-ending injury. Drake Jackson is on injured reserve. He's a former USC guy. Looks like Nick Bosa's not on injured reserve, but I hope he's. I shouldn't say I hope he's not out, but I'm hoping the Rams don't have to deal with Nick Bosa, because if you've seen the Rams offensive line, you've seen how Matthew Stafford has little time to throw in the pocket. Dude literally has no time to throw in the pocket, and it's sickening to my stomach. It's literally just Matthew Stafford is going to, is literally running for his life and praying that he does not get crushed offensively. But yeah, I'm confident in the. I'm not confident in the Bears beating the Niners, but I am confident in the Rams beating the Niners. So I guess I'll look at the injury report for the Niners. Yeah, Nick Bosa is doubtful. So interesting. He's doubtful for this week. Could he be doubtful against the Rams on Thursday? That is a tough Thursday game, though. So, Then Talanoa Hufanga is on IR. So, and then Dre Greenlaw is on the PUP list. So, this little bit of a stretch is going to be interesting for the Niners. Will they be able to find a way to get past the Rams? Will Nick Bosa play? Because if they get Nick Bosa back, that's a huge boost to their defense. But that's looking too far ahead. The Rams have to deal with the Bills, which, again, I got the Bills winning. As much as I don't want to see the Rams lose, I just think that they just don't have a good shot at beating the Bills. The Bills are just too good, and I think the Bills are just going to find a way to beat those Rams. And it'll be close, but I think the Bills will have just enough in the tank to beat the Rams. So yeah, that's pretty much that for the Rams and Chargers portion of the show. We're going to take ourselves a quick little commercial break. When we come back, we've got some college football to discuss. Then we've got a little MLS to discuss. So keep it locked here. You were listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IA Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
What's up, Pittsburgh? This is Ralph Delis, the host of the Injury Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Are you that passionate diehard Steelers, Penguins, Pirates, or just a Pittsburgh sports fan? Then please join me on the Injury Report every Tuesday on IE Sports Radio, the direct feed for all that is sports, and I will update you on all that's black and gold, and have you telling your Pittsburgh fans and friends what's up with Pittsburgh sports. Tune in Tuesday with me, Ralph Calise, the User Report on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. Let's go!
Are you a fan of Buffalo sports? Are you thinking of changing loyalties and becoming a Buffalo sports fan? Do you even know where Buffalo is on the map? Did you know Canada is closer to Buffalo than New York City? Welcome to the Buffalo Huddle, every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. I'm your host, Patty Bax. This is a podcast designed for you, the passionate sports fan. I know you love your sports. Who doesn't? I cover Buffalo sports and so much more by bringing in the human elements. I call it Buffalo Sports with a Twist. Join me as we take a journey into the world of Buffalo sports. I guarantee you'll fall in love with Buffalo just like I did. Each week we start with an inspiration, question of the day, a Buffalo fun fact, and our weekly challenge to you, the listener. Come huddle up with me every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 4 p.m. Pacific Coast Time for the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bax on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports. As we say in Buffalo, go Bills!
Back with segment number 2 of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as the Instant Report with Ralph Calise, who just popped into the chat room recently when I was talking some Chargers. Also check out the Buffalo Huddle with Patty Bags, because nobody circles the wagons better than those Buffalo Bills. All right, let's get on back into the SoCal sports action. So let's talk some college football. And let's get this matchup out of the way. Long story short, UCLA, they were able to take care of business against Fresno State. They won 27-20 as they closed off the regular season. They won't be bowling because UCLA wound up pooping the bed against USC, which eventually well, they didn't just poop the bed against. All right, I'm sorry. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Just gonna fix up something real quick. Yeah, it was actually 20-13. Yeah, I'm giving UCLA's offense a little too much credit. But yeah, UCLA was able to win in their last game of the regular season. So this was a little bit of an ugly game for UCLA as they're actually down at halftime. The offense just could not get it going. And they were making Fresno State look a little more elite than they needed to. But thankfully for UCLA, they woke up in the second half. They got their offense really going, and the defense was stout, holding Fresno State to only 3 points. And as much as I wanted to see UCLA win by double digits, I'm more thankful they were able to win at all, because if UCLA lost this game, that would have been highly concerning for UCLA and its fan base going into next year. But UCLA was able to handle business end the regular season off with a win. They beat Fresno State 2013. So good job to those gutty little Bruins. They finished the season 5-7. Obviously, it was kind of a baptism by fire just because, well, for starters, they were transitioning from the Pac-12 over to the Big Ten, which that's a massive jump right there. And it was just a tough year overall, obviously under new head coach Deshaun Foster. But thankfully for UCLA, the season's over, and now they can get on to the offseason. So what must UCLA do to get back to being some of the best of the bunch? Well, for starters, look, it's not going to be a one-day process. It's not going to be, poof, wave a magic wand, UCLA's back to being really good. No, it's going to take a while. I mean, obviously, they've got players going from the transfer portal. They just had their most recent signing day class, which actually was pretty decent. But yeah, it's basically a work in progress. And one of my friends who is a big USC hater and a big Michigan fan and UCLA fan, he said they need to get rid of Chip Kelly's players, or the players from the Chip Kelly era, and they need Deshaun Foster to bring in his players from his era, his signing class and whatnot. Now, that would be implying they're going to be using the transfer portal to get players left and right, but they're also going to be banking on their young signing class. Now, one player who I think has a lot of potential is Weston Port. That dude is going to be an anchor for UCLA defensively. I actually got to see a few of his games. He hails from San Juan Capistrano. He went to San Juan Hills High School. Believe it or not, he was a 4-year captain and a 4-year starter, and I think he made like all-league all 4 years. Now, I don't know about you all, but 4-year starter and 4-year captain, that means he was a captain his freshman year. I am flabbergasted by that, but Weston Port does have a lot of good leadership, and his little brother's pretty darn good as well. But UCLA, they've got a pretty decent signing class. Their signing class is not bad by any means. Yes, they had like players like TJ Harden moving on and entering the transfer portal and whatnot. They're obviously going to have a new quarterback as Ethan Garbers played his last game at the Rose Bowl, as well as in a UCLA uniform. So it's going to be such an interesting process. So we'll see what happens with UCLA going forward, but this is not going to be a one-day process where they basically clean house with some of the old players and they bring in some new players. They're going to need to get all the young players up to speed with Deshaun Foster's play style and whatnot. So it's going to be a process in the offseason. So hopefully for UCLA's sake, they're able to, for UCLA's sake, I'm not trying to say this as a UCLA homer, but I'm hoping that UCLA does become more competitive, because I think it's more fun if UCLA is competitive. They had a few games here and there where they were in it for the most part, and then they just unfortunately faltered. Like, for example, the LSU game, they were tied at halftime with the Tigers, but then they pretty much just faltered in the second half, losing 34-17. And then they had a bunch of clunker games where they lost to Indiana, which was their first ever Big Ten game. They lost to Oregon, which is still number 1 in the nation. They lost to Penn State, where their offense just could not get anything going. They had the heartbreaker against Minnesota, which if they had just stopped that running back, they maybe would have won. And they had the clunker game against Washington, where Washington was giving them every single chance to win. And this was a Washington team that has won, 20 straight games at home. And then UCLA lost that one. And then obviously the fourth quarter blunder against USC. So, yeah, looking at UCLA, they finished 3-6 in the Big Ten Conference. And like I said, they finished 5-7 overall. I mean, I'll give them this. They at least finished above teams like Nebraska, even though they're bowling, Michigan State, Wisconsin, Northwestern, Maryland, and Purdue. But then again, every team finished higher than Purdue. So you have that right there. So at least, but some other news when it comes to, actually, I'll save that for a little later in the show. But yeah, UCLA's actually, no, you know what? I'll save the news right now. But UCLA just recently fired their offensive coordinator, Eric Bieniemy, as their new offensive coordinator is going to actually come from Indiana he's the quarterback's coach, as Tino Sunseri, has agreed to replace Eric Bieniemy. So I guess that's decent. I mean, he goes from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator, while Eric Bieniemy is probably going to go back to Kansas City. So I wouldn't be surprised if Bieniemy just went back to Kansas City and just won another Super Bowl with the Chiefs. But man, UCLA's offense was so bad they couldn't even use Eric Bieniemy right. This was borderline dumb of the week material. But yeah. Oh, my dog just walked in here. And you know what? Oh, he just left. I was actually gonna. You know what? We're gonna try to get him on camera. Oh, never mind. This is the first in SoCal Supreme Sports Show history. My stepdad's dog just walked in. I forgot to close the door, which was my bad. But yeah, I was hoping to get him on camera, but it wasn't meant to be. So, oh well. So yeah, back to UCLA. They couldn't use Eric Bieniemy right, which, how do you mess that up, UCLA? How do you mess that up? And Patty Back says, have a great show, Teran. Hope you enjoyed your birthday. Oh, thank you, Patty. Yeah, I did enjoy my birthday, even though I was working most of the day, whether it was at my real life job or was at my volunteer job. But yeah, thank you for the well wish and the birthday wish, Patty. I greatly appreciate it. But yeah, they go from Eric Bieniemy, who is a Super Bowl offensive coordinator, to Tino Sunseri, who was the quarterbacks coach at Indiana. Now, keep in mind that Indiana had the amazing Curtis Rourke, who could possibly be a Heisman finalist. But I will say, if they're thinking that he could do that with either a freshman quarterback or any sort of quarterback, you're dead wrong. Again, it's going to be a time will tell process, but at least this is a good step in the right direction. But do you want to know how bad UCLA's offense was? They were ranked 126th nationally in the FBS, as they only averaged 18.4 points per game. That was bad. They were also ranked 117th in offense, being 328.8 yards per game, and they had the fifth worst rushing attack with only 86.6 yards per game. Yeah, they were bad. UCLA was horrible offensively. And also, in addition to Eric Bieniemy getting fired, Juan Castillo is not expected to return as the UCLA offensive line coach. So maybe I can apply for this. I was actually thinking of applying for the UCLA offensive coordinator job because a few of my friends were joking, saying, I think we need Teran to run the offense, because I have a friend who's a UCLA fan, and he actually did play UCLA football. And then he obviously had his feelings when it came to UCLA and firing Eric Bieniemy. But yeah, it's going to be a time will tell process for UCLA. I'm sure they'll get back on track eventually, but we'll see. And then Patty says, go Bills. Yeah, you missed the Buffalo Bills segment where I talked about how the Bills are probably going to beat the Rams, but I'm hoping the Rams just don't take that. I hope the Rams just make it competitive. That's what I'm hoping for. Kind of like how the Chargers made it competitive against the Bills last year, even though they were starting Easton frickin' Stick. And yes, Patty. All right. But yeah, that's what UCLA needs to do. They need to find their correct coaches. They need to get rid of all of Chip Kelly's players, which I think is a valid argument. And then Deshaun Foster needs to have his players ready and willing. All right, but that is that for UCLA right there, UCLA football right there. Now for USC. So I will say I wasn't too disappointed by this game. USC football kind of kept it close against Notre Dame. I thought it was just going to be an ugly game, but USC was just could not win. They couldn't pull the upset against the number 5 Notre Dame Fighting Irish, as they lost 49-35. Yeah, we remember how I was basically saying that USC's offense is the problem and how it was just bad. Now the defense is the problem. So yeah, first half it was basically Notre Dame going up 7-0 late in the first quarter. Then USC scored a touchdown. Suddenly it's tied. And then Notre Dame scored a touchdown pretty much late in the second quarter. Suddenly, Notre Dame's up 14-7. But thankfully, USC was able to hit the clutch. They got Jade Mayava, who put on his big boy pants and found Jacoby Lane, who I think is going to be a stud wide receiver in the NFL. Book it right there. Jacoby Lane, stud wide receiver for USC. So suddenly it's 14-14 at halftime. And I'm thinking, okay, USC's looking good. They might actually pull this one off. Notre Dame did score a touchdown. Like, I'm just going to say this. USC is probably one of the worst rushing attacks ever. Like, if it were for UCLA having such a bad run game, USC doesn't win that game against UCLA. This is the game where they're fighting for their lives. But, yeah. Notre Dame scored the first touchdown of the second half with a 36-yard touchdown run. USC countered with a Jade Mayava 1-yard touchdown run. And then there was another Notre Dame touchdown run after that drive. And then USC, unfortunately, USC gave the ball back to Notre Dame, which was a terrible idea. And eventually Notre Dame made USC pay. They got a touchdown pass, which eventually gave Notre Dame gave them 21 points in the third quarter. 21 points in the third quarter. So suddenly Notre Dame's up 35-21, and now I'm starting to become more worried. Then USC was able to get another touchdown pass from Jacoby Lane to Jacoby Lane from Jaden Mayava. So Jacoby Lane, as if you're not paying attention to this, he was the hero. This dude was legit. But unfortunately for USC, they got the ball back. They got the ball back, and it was looking really good. USC got into the red zone, and then what did Jaden Mayava do? He threw a pick six. A 99-yard pick six. Why? Suddenly, USC had a chance to tie the game up at 35-35, and now it's suddenly 42-28 in favor of Notre Dame. But it gets worse. Next drive, USC is driving down the field. They're trying to get it to the end zone. They're in Notre Dame territory. And you want to know what Jaden Mayava does? He throws another pick six. This time, this one goes for 100 yards. This man, Jaden Mayava really tapped into his inner Jameis Winston. I'm sorry, but 2 pick sixes on back-to-back drives. Are you kidding me, Jaden Mayava? Get this man off my team. Send this man back to UNLV. Disgusting. How do you throw 2 pick sixes? 2 pick sixes. He really did tap into his inner Jameis Winston because Jameis Winston had 2 pick sixes against the Broncos. What are you doing, USC? I'm not even going to change the color. And USC got it. This was USC throwing those 2 pick sixes were so bad that it was actually featured on ESPN's Bad Beats with Scott Van Pelt and Stanford Steve. It was that bad. I know USC got a garbage time touchdown as Jacoby Lane got his 3rd touchdown of the game, which I think is cool. I mean, yes, touchdown, garbage time touchdown. I mean, cool beans, but it didn't matter. USC lost 49-35. God, that was ugly. I mean, without those 2 pick sixes, would USC had won even if Jaden Mayava completed that touchdown pass when it was 35-28 in favor of Notre Dame? I don't know. I mean, that's asking for a lot when it comes to USC's run defense, which has been horrible all season. I don't care if USC had that great game against UCLA. That was UCLA. It wasn't that great. But this isn't UCLA. Notre Dame or USC was playing Notre Dame, and they lost. So I will say this about USC. They gave it all that they could handle against Notre Dame. They were competitive throughout the entire game. The 2 pick sixes were so unfortunate, but sadly, life goes on for SC, as this is a Notre Dame team that should not be independent. They should legit maybe be in a conference, looking at you, ACC. And their only loss was to Northern Illinois. How does this team always keep finding ways to get ranked? Anyway, yeah, and looking based on how they beat Army, at least USC did get beaten down by that much. At least they of all of Notre Dame's wins, this was the third closest win. They had a win over Texas A&M by 10. They had a win over Louisville by 7. They had a win over Virginia by 21. They crushed Army the week before, which Army was ranked. So, yeah, I mean, USC, again, it was unfortunate that they had the 2 pick sixes, but life goes on when it comes to USC. So USC is back in action, and I knew that was going to happen. I knew when I was going to touch my screen, it was going to go all sideways on me. Their next opponent is against question mark to the third power, and they're playing at question mark to the third power in a bowl game. So yeah, I don't know who USC is playing in terms of its bowl game, but yeah, USC. I mean, look, Patty Bax also said she hopes that the Bills do win. And T5 just popped into the chat room. He says, "What's good, T-Rod?" Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for tuning in, T5, the host of the Crescent City Connection, which actually goes live tomorrow. You definitely want to check it out. I think it's at 10 a.m. Pacific time, noon Central time. But either way, definitely check out T5 on the Crescent City Connection, as well as the IE Wrestling Show with my boy Martin Sandoval. So thanks for popping in, T5. So yeah, USC's next opponents will be in a bowl game against question mark at question mark. So look, this is kind of the whole debate of, is it great to play a bowl game versus should you just rest up and recover for the offseason? I think it's an honor to play in a bowl game. I don't care if it's the Cheez-Its Bowl or the Tostitos Tortilla Chips Bowl or the Browns-Raiders Toilet Bowl. It's an honor to be in a bowl game because your team finished with a winning record. Big right there, just because you didn't have a losing record, and no one likes to have losing records. And I get it. It's not the Rose Bowl. It's not the Sun Bowl. It's not the Alamo Bowl. It's not the Cotton Bowl. It's not any of the big-time bowls. But you're still bowling, which I think is a big honor. You're getting to play at least one more game. And for the seniors, it's just one last hurrah. Just for the seniors. I was going to say for the other players that are possibly going to go off to the NFL, that's not going to happen just because because they want to save their bodies and they're not going to be playing in bowl games, kind of like my boy Caleb Williams did. But yeah, I think it's an honor to be bowling. I think USC should be honored. I get there is the crowd of that USC shouldn't be bowling, and bowling, if it's not the Rose Bowl or anything, it doesn't mean anything. But I think bowling is a good honor. I don't know what you all think. I'm probably going to discuss more on this when it comes to 3 and Out College Edition, but I think playing in a bowl game is a big, big honor. My boy T5 says USC snatched a 5-star defensive lineman from Edna Carr out of New Orleans. Thank you for that, T5. Yeah, I actually wasn't going to plan it on going over all of the recruiting classes, but USC does have a pretty solid recruiting class. I'm not sure if it's like top 50. I think it's like top 20. I'm not entirely sure, but but my boy T5 says that USC did snatch a 5-star defensive lineman out of New Orleans, which I think is pretty good. And USC's defense needs all the help they can get because have you seen how bad it was this season? Yeah. So thank you for that update, T5, aka Travis. But anyway, USC, that's going to pretty much do it for them. At least they were the only SoCal. They were, of the 3 SoCal teams in the FBS, being San Diego State, UCLA, and USC. USC was the only one to be bowl game eligible. San Diego State had a tragic ending to their season. It was, no, we're not going to talk San Diego State. I mean, yes, University of San Diego did manage to finish with a very respectable record. But honestly, if they played USC, I think the Trojans would smack them around. So yeah, hopefully for USC's sake, there are going to be brighter days. But the big question remains: who's going to be their quarterback next year? Is Miller Moss going to come back? Will they start with Miller Moss? Will Lincoln Riley be on the hot seat? Will USC bring in a freshman quarterback? Will they actually recruit from Southern California? Because I think that might be USC's problem. They're recruiting from all over the nation, which I think is cool. But Southern California does have some darn good talent. And hopefully for their sake, they can nab some players from like Bosco, St. John Bosco, Mater Dei. I mean, Mater Dei is kind of like their main pipeline for the most part when it comes to like their big 3, 4, 5-star players and whatnot. But yeah, looking at the USC quarterback depth, they've got Dylan Geddes, who's a freshman, Jake Jensen, a junior, Jade Mayava, he's a sophomore. Well, I mean, that's the big thing. Is Jade Mayava the guy going forward? Will Miller Moss be the guy going forward? Will Gage Roy maybe be the guy going forward? Will Jack Stupin be the guy going forward? Ooh, Jack Stupin's from Newport Beach. Why does that name sound so familiar? Jack Stupin. He's from my neck of the woods. Where did this guy go? Now I'm interested to know where Jack Stupin went. Where Jack Stupin went to high school. But yeah, USC has like that's the biggest question when it comes to their roster next year. Who's going to be starting quarterback? Is it going to be Miller Moss? Is it going to be Jaden Mayava? Is it going to be someone else? Who is it going to be? So he went to Tustin High School. Okay, wow, Tustin High School? So he was a 3-star recruit who came out of Tustin High School, which I think that's pretty cool right there. But I didn't know that. I didn't know he was from Newport Beach. So he went to Tustin High School, but then he's from Newport Beach. Anyway, I'm beating this dead horse too much. But yeah, USC will be going bowling soon, and I'm looking way too much from the rabbit hole. All right, but that's that for USC, for college football altogether. Let's talk some MLS. So the Galaxy, in the Western Conference Final, they were able to take down those pesky Seattle Sounders 1-0 at Dignity Health Sports Park to advance to the MLS Cup Final for the first time since 2014, where they last won it all, which was good stuff right there. So yeah, that was such a big win right there. I was very impressed by the LA Galaxy, and thank the heavens they were able to pick up that win. Because if you remember, the Seattle Sounders upsetted LAFC in the Western Conference semis, but against the Galaxy, they were able to inch out the win. All they needed was one goal, which I thought was pretty good, as Dejan Hovlahich scored that one in the 85th minute. Yeah, this was one of those defensive battles where both the Galaxy and Sounders just could not get anything going for the most part. But thankfully, the Galaxy was able to inch out the win by a nose. Galaxy outpossessed the Sounders 54% to 46%. I know the Sounders had a little under 46%, but I like to round up and round down. Galaxy had 5 shots on goal, while the Sounders had 4 shots on goal. 4 saves by each goalie from each team. And then corner kicks were in favor of Seattle, 5-3. So the reward for the LA Galaxy, they will be hosting the MLS Cup Championship tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific time against the New York Red Bulls. Now, the New York Red Bulls have been such an interesting story. They actually are playing in their first MLS Cup final since 2008, and they're still hoping to get that first elusive cup nailed down. And this actually is such a good storyline. It's actually a feel-good storyline for both teams. And I'm trying to look at who the Red Bulls actually finished. Well, first and foremost, the Red Bulls finished 7th in the MLS Eastern Conference standings, which I think is pretty cool right there. But Greg Vanny said here's some news. Marco Reus is expected to play in this Saturday's MLS Cup despite his doubts due to a groin issue. Okay, that's good news for the Galaxy. They did all the reinforcements they can get. But looking at the New York Red Bulls, they were able to take down the not the Orlando Pride, but Orlando FC or Orlando City FC Orlando City SC 1-0 as they got their goal in the 47th minute. So this is the battle between a team that's in search of their first MLS Cup versus a team that is looking to earn their 6th MLS Cup title, let alone a team that was in last place. So the Galaxy are looking to claim MLS Cup number 6. But let me tell you about the story of how the Galaxy were basically one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the MLS, going to the best team in the MLS and the best team in the Western Conference and being one win away from the MLS Cup. All right, so if you remember last year was such a tragic year for the Galaxy. The Galaxy wound up finishing last. They were the worst team in the MLS, and they had the worst start to their program, having lost their first 7 matches. It was bad for the Galaxy. And it was even to the point where Greg Vanny even got into an argument with some of the fans. Yeah, the fans were just really fed up with the losing, and they got into Vanny got into a shouting match with some of the fans in the stands, which it really sucks. It really sucks that fans just lose their patience and they just chew out the coach or they chew out the manager. So yeah, it was looking bad for the Galaxy and it doesn't help that they were pretty much their GM was the biggest clown in all of the MLS. Their GM was Chris Klein, who was a massive clown. And he even got suspended midway through last year, which, yeah, clown show. But after the season last year, the Galaxy just said, get out of here, Chris Klein. Pack your things. You're fired. Go away. You're gone. Goodbye. So, yeah, when the Galaxy got rid of Chris Klein, that was when they started to get serious. Because last year, they were at the bottom of the MLS rankings, the MLS power rankings, that even they were dubbed as a not serious program. They were so bad, they were even quoted to being a not serious team. That's how bad the Galaxy were last year. That's sad beyond misbelief. I'm not the biggest MLS buff, but I like my Galaxy. I've liked my Galaxy ever since the Landon Donovan days. And, you know, Galaxy, I don't try to be a bandwagon, but the Galaxy are just, they were kind of the team I grew up with. I mean, I got respect for LAFC and what they've done the past 2 seasons, make it to the MLS Cup Championship and winning their first ever MLS Cup Championship. But the Galaxy, it was looking grim. And let alone, the Galaxy had to watch little brother LAFC steal the spotlight. And, you know, the last 2 years, 2 years ago, they were able, or 2 seasons ago, they watched LAFC win in penalty kicks against the Philadelphia Union, which obviously was a nightmare. And then being the worst team in the league, they got to see the best team in the league in LAFC, or the second best team in the league, go toe-to-toe against the Columbus Crew. They lost to the Columbus. The LAFC obviously lost to the Columbus Crew, but that obviously left a bad taste in the Galaxy's mouth and their fans' mouth, seeing little brother steal the spotlight. Now the spotlight is all on the Galaxy. The Galaxy have a chance for dubious immortality. They have a chance to be Thanos and get that 6th Infinity Stone and win another MLS Cup and reclaim their rightful position as one of the best teams in the MLS, because this team used to be a juggernaut back in the early 2000s. They were pretty much like the 2000 Lakers, to be exact, if that's a perfect comparison. But yeah, Galaxy, the fans have been waiting 10 years for this moment. They've been through heartbreak, through disappointment, through disgust, through sadness, through happiness. They've been through all of the emotions, and now they are one win away from possibly clinching championship number 6. But to do that, they have to face a talented New York Red Bulls team who was the 17th from the Eastern Conference. Now, looking at this on paper, it looks like the Galaxy can win this one easy. But this is the MLS Cup Championship. All records need to be thrown out the window. All seeds need to be thrown out the window. And we got to see what these players can do. And if this is any indicator of 2 years ago, I think we could be in for some fireworks. Now, the Galaxy do have the luxury of hosting at Dignity Health Sports Park, but the Galaxy really need to cross their T's, dot their I's. They got to play a good, clean game. Obviously, getting Roos back is going to be so big. And, yeah, I think this is going to be an intense final. I hope for the Galaxy's sake they can – and I hope they can win it. I guess Ricky Puig, that's probably his first name, but Ricky Puig, I guess, is hurt, and I guess he's not going to play in the final, which is such a big time bummer. But the Galaxy have all sorts of other stud players. With Roos coming back, they've got Dejan Hovlich, they've got Gabriel Pack, they've got a lot of good players coming back. They've got a lot of good studs on their team. It might not be as flashy as LAFC, but honestly, it's still pretty darn good. So hoping for the best when it comes to the Galaxy. And I hope for the New York Red Bulls they can give them a good battle. I hope it's not a blowout where the Galaxy put 3 goals on them or they hang 6 goals on them, and it's just like a one-sided affair. I'm hoping that the Galaxy and the New York Red Bulls play down to the wire because these are 2 teams that have different storylines. The New York Red Bulls are looking to win their first ever MLS Cup, while the Galaxy are looking to win their first MLS Cup in 10 years. They're making their first appearance in 10 years, which fans have been dying for. So we'll see what happens this Saturday. I think it's I think it's really cool that we're getting a unique final. It's not going to be like the New England Revolution versus the Galaxy, even though the Revolution have been pretty darn bad the past few years. But I'm excited for this final. As pretty much a lifelong Galaxy supporter since pretty much day one, I hope that the Galaxy do pull it out. I mean, I'm hoping that the Galaxy do to the New York Red Bulls like the Dodgers did to the Yankees. But this is just one match wins all, so we'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for the Galaxy portion of the show. I just wanted to show you all and tell you all that little bit of a story right there. When we come back, we've got some Lakers and Clippers to discuss, and then we've got the Dum Dum of the Week. Keep it locked here. You were listening to the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. We'll be right back after this.
Hockey fans, I'm Adam Kernick.
And I'm Zach Puplis.
Together, we are the newest version of Hockey Talk on IE Sports Radio, The Neutral Zone.
Zone.
We love hockey, but we also know it's not everyone's first sport. So we want to make this show as much for new fans as for the diehards.
Whether you can name all the Swedes on the 08 Red Wings Stanley Cup team, or if you can't tell if Varlamov is a goalie or the latest trendy vodka, we're here to help. With facts, figures, and outrageous fans, we bring you all the hard-hitting hockey news you can handle, while still keeping it fun and on the rails. Well, mostly.
So tune in every week as we go around the hockey world, from college to Canada, the minors and the majors, and everywhere in between.
So bring your cellies.
And your one-timers.
You wicked wristas.
And be sure to protect your 5-hole.
Catch the Neutral Zone every week on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
We promise not to pick on the Arizona Coyotes every episode.
everybody. This is Teran Rodriguez. Are you a fan of volleyball? Are you a fan of Thunderous Spikes? Then I have the show for you, Set Point, where I cover NCAA men's and women's volleyball, high school boys and girls volleyball, beach volleyball, and even professional volleyball. Catch the action every week here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that is sports.
And we are back with the final segment of the SoCal Supreme Sports Show here on IE Sports Radio, your direct feed for all that sports. Definitely check out all of our amazing shows, such as The Neutral Zone with Adam Karnick and Zach Puplis, and my other show that I do, Set Points, which I guess we could talk a little bit of volleyball. So there were a couple teams that made the NCAA tournament. There was LMU, Loyola Marymount, which wound up winning the West Coast Conference, which I thought was pretty cool right there. And then there was also USC, which, oh my God, I really wish they could have hosted. If they would have hosted, I probably wouldn't be doing the show, but unfortunately USC lost a couple times to Michigan State, and they lost to Illinois, which wound up losing in the first round, and Michigan State didn't even make the NCAA tournament, which really bummed me out. But it is what it is, as USC actually won their first round matchup yesterday against UT Arlington in 3 sets, as they actually played Texas rather soon. I think they played like 4 or 5 minutes, which I think is going to be a fun matchup right there. That actually is coached by, which, believe it or not, both teams were actually coached by former head coach Mick Haley, who I actually had the honor of meeting, which I think is pretty cool. So, yeah, that's a little bit of news of USC women's volleyball. And if they win, they advance to the Sweet 16, which I think would be nice, but I just don't see SC advancing. I mean, I love my USC Trojans. I like Brad Keller. He's a really good guy. But I will just say USC will need to play some perfect volleyball if they want to advance out of the round of 16. And then for LMU, they actually play Washington in the Stanford Regional. They're actually at Stanford. If they were to win that matchup, they would face the winner of Stanford-Sacramento State, which is probably going to be Stanford. But Washington and LMU is going to be such a good matchup right there. I've seen both LMU and Washington. I saw Washington in a match against Long Beach State, and then I saw LMU in a scrimmage against Long Beach State. I think that both teams are going to be playing a big old barn burner. But time will tell. I mean, again, I kind of expect, if LMU does get out of the first round, then I kind of expect them to make a second round exit. I mean, nothing against LMU. But I just think that Stanford will be too powerful. I mean, Stanford's not going to – this isn't going to be like 2014 or 15 when LMU stunned Stanford when they had Sarah Sponsel on their team. It's not going to be like that. But, yeah, that's kind of your update in terms of NCAA women's volleyball. And there actually was a trade when it came to the NHL, when it came to the Anaheim Ducks. So they actually traded with the New York Rangers. So the Ducks, courtesy of Ryan Mead – the New York Rangers got Uro Vakinian, which makes only $1.1 million, and they got a fourth rounder, and then the Ducks get Jacob the Flying Show Truba, which the Ducks actually take on the entirety of the Truba salary. So this was actually posted a few minutes right before I went live. This was actually courtesy posted of the Neutral Zone. But yeah, the Ducks got a pretty darn good talent in Jakob the Flying Elbow Truba. So if it'll help make the Ducks become relevant, by all means, the Ducks will take it. And only for a fourth rounder and spot for one player that makes just a little over $1 million. I think it's a pretty good steal. Now, obviously, the New York Rangers are going to get a lot of cap space for them to splash in terms of trades and free agency later on in the future. But good job, Ducks. Way to actually pull off a decent trade. All right, but that is that for the NHL portion of the show, and I guess a little bit of some SoCal potpourri. But now you got to get into the biggest elephant in the room, the Lakers. The Lakers, oh my God, this is so frustrating. The Lakers have actually lost 6 of their last 8 games. And most of their most recent losses have been so gut-wrenching. It's bad, dude. We're talking about bad. Their most recent losses were to the Miami Heat and to the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Timberwolves, they lost by 29, which was complete bad. And then they lost at the Miami Heat by 41 points. They lost by 41 points. It was that bad for the Lakers. I'm sorry, but it was just terrible. And it's even getting to the point where Michael Wilbon of ESPN, NBA on ESPN, he's saying that the Lakers need to trade LeBron James to the Golden State Warriors. Well, they better get good trade value, and they probably better trade Bronny James over there as well. So who are they going to get for LeBron James, though? Steph Curry? I don't think the Warriors are going to want to part that much with Steph. I mean, Steph obviously is kind of in his, I wouldn't say he's in his, like, closing years, but he's kind of in his, like, late prime years. I mean, the dude still had a fantastic run in the Olympics, helping the U.S. win gold, but he's still him. He can still shoot the rock. Anyway, Lakers are back in action tonight as they continue their road trip. They actually close out their 4-game road trip against the Atlanta Hawks, which is actually starting right now. So, yeah, hopefully for the Lakers' sake, they can start racking up some W's. It's not looking too good. It looks like they might be bound for the play-in game again, as following that game to the Hawks, they actually return home on Sunday to take on the Portland Trailblazers. Then they're on the road against Minnesota next Friday. Man, Lakers got somewhat of a tough draw in terms of their schedule. Hopefully it kind of eases up real soon. And speaking of that Golden State Warriors game, they played the Golden State Warriors on Christmas Day, which everyone and their moms are going to be salivating over. So we'll see what happens. I mean, the Warriors haven't been too great, but they still lead the division, which doesn't mean anything. So we'll see what happens going forward. But for right now, it's been a complete dog water show when it comes to the Lakers. It's a complete gong show. Now, the Clippers, on the other hand, they haven't looked terrible. They've won 5 of their last 8, which I think is pretty good. But they got steamrolled by the Timberwolves. It was so bad for them. Like, you thought the Lakers lost to the T-Wolves was bad. The Clippers lost to the T-Wolves is even worse. And this was in Los Angeles at the Intuit Arena. And this was when my boy Lou Williams was in attendance. Like, how could the Lakers do this? They let Lou Williams down. What can you do? And Julius Randle looked like he was in his prime. It looked like he was in prime form as the Timberwolves just snapped the Clippers 2-game win streak. But the Timberwolves have been the most recent losses for the Clippers, but I digress. So the Clippers are back in action tonight. Actually, no, they're back in action on Sunday when they host the Houston Rockets. I will just mention that the Lakers and Clippers will not be playing for the NBA in-season tournament championship. I mean, that's good for the Lakers because the last time they won it, which was last year, they wound up having the worst hangover ever. I guess after the Sunday matchup against the Rockets, the Clippers are back in action next Friday when they hit the road to the Mile High City to take on Denver. They've actually had some good success against the Nuggets. They beat the Nuggets in their second game of the season, and then they also beat the Nuggets most recently, which I think is pretty good. Not bad at all. Then they've got the Jazz. The Rockets are beatable. The Mavericks are kind of beatable, even though they've been flying under the radar. The Clippers do not play on Christmas Day, which sucks, but it is what it is. All right, but that is that for the Clippers portion of this show. And I know it was just a quick little meat and potatoes thing, but yeah, Clippers are solid, and there's still plenty of time for both the Lakers and the Clippers. But man, this is a little bit This is still concerning for the Lakers. All right, but that's that for the Lakers and Clippers. Before we get on out of here, as we are now 90 minutes into this whole thing, we got to go over the Dum Dum of the Week. So no one is safe from the Dum Dum of the Week. Honestly, anyone can get this Dum Dum of the Week award. There have been plenty of dumb things happening as of recent. So jumping to the MLB to start Dum Dum of the Week, there's been talk when it comes to like Rob Manfred and some of these managers that there's actually going to be a golden hitter rule in the 9th inning. I'm not kidding you. Rob Manfred and some of the managers in the MLB are thinking of having a golden hitter rule, meaning no matter what order of the lineup that a certain team is in when it comes to the 9th inning, they could have said hitter bat next. I'm not kidding you. I'm not making this up. There could be a rule where a certain team, like say the Yankees are playing the Dodgers, where the Dodgers are probably in the bottom or top of the 9th, and then they could use the golden hitter to have Shohei Ohtani hit or Freddie Freeman hit, or for the Yankees' sake, they could have Aaron Judge hit or someone else of that matter hit. Like, they can have any player hit and become their golden hitter. No. If this passes, I will not watch the MLB. This cannot happen. There cannot be this whole golden hitter rule. Please, this is for like all-star game purposes. Do not pass this. Every manager in the MLB, Rob Manfred, do not pass the golden hitter rule. As fun as that may sound, I don't like it. It's terrible. It's bad. It's horrible. Please, please, please do not pass the golden hitter rule. This is not worth passing. It's not worth it. Just don't do it. Please. Like, this sounds like a dumb rule. Even MLB analysts are thinking that this is a terrible rule. Like, come on, dude. Like, just stop. Just don't have this whole golden hitter rule. Just please, just don't. Like, I swear to God, it's already bad that the MLB has the whole 10th inning rule. At least the 10th inning rule is logical, where it's not just 3 up, 3 down, 3 up, 3 down, 3 up, 3 down. And then it goes to like 18 innings and whatnot until we get a winner. Like, at least the extra man on base rule for the 10th inning and beyond is logical. The golden hitter rule makes no sense. If you can't have your other players in your hitting rotation come up big when it matters most, you don't deserve to have your best player at bat. And it just makes things unfair for the pitchers. Like, what if it's a bullpen game where you're saving your ace pitchers for like sometime in the near future of a game or in the playoffs? You're really just going to have Hingle McCringleberry pitch to Shohei Ohtani where he's like 0-10 and then he just gives up a home run to lose the game. Like, come on, dude. Like, that's taking the fun out of the MLB. I just don't approve of the golden hitter rule. So I don't know, maybe you all approve of it, but yeah, I just don't like it. So to Rob Manfred and MLB, if you pass this golden hitter rule, you are instant dum-dum of forever and beyond. But right now, for the person that proposed the golden hitter rule, you're a dum-dum of the week. I don't give a flying you-know-what. Dum-dum of the week, no doubt about it. Now for the second dum-dum of the week. So remember how I was talking about the Lakers? Oh, man. So my brother actually came to visit, which I thought was pretty cool for Thanksgiving. And instead of watching the Bills demolish the San Francisco 49ers on national TV, he decided to turn to the Laker game where they were playing the Utah Jazz on NBA TV, which thankfully there's a deal going around. So we'll fast forward to like late in the game. So the Lakers were leading and LeBron James was having a horrible shooting night from three. It actually got to the point where LeBron James had a streak of missed threes where he eventually snapped it, I think, against Miami. But it was to the point where the Lakers were playing the Utah Jazz in Utah. The Jazz are one of the worst teams in the NBA, by the way. But Lakers were up 1. They try to get the go-ahead shot to put it away. They miss it. The Jazz eventually push it up the court. They don't call timeout right away. They find the ball to Colin Sexton, who takes the jump shot or drives the lane, and it looks good, but it gets waved off because the Utah Jazz coach calls a timeout right as Sexton is ready to drive the lane. I'm not kidding you. The Utah Jazz coach literally called a timeout right when Colin Sexton was about to drive the lane and win the game for the Jazz. But it gets worse. So there's like about 2 seconds left, and down the ball. And I don't remember who took the final shot, but he couldn't get a shot off. He lost the ball on the way up, and he recovered the ball, but couldn't get a final shot off. And the Lakers wound up winning by 1. Will Hardy is the Utah Jazz coach, and this guy lost the game for the Utah Jazz. I'm sorry, everybody. Will Hardy lost the game for the Utah Jazz. That's about as winnable of a game as the Utah Jazz are gonna get. Oh, forgive me, everybody. I can't. But Will Hardy lost the game for the Jazz against the Lakers team. I'm not kidding you. Will Hardy literally called timeout right when Colin Sexton was ready to drive the hoop and win it for the Jazz. And then eventually the timeout wound up hurting. That might be the worst timeout since Brandon Staley called timeout for the Chargers when they were hosting the Raiders in the Week 18 game. Oh, Will Hardy, you are so terrible. You're dumb. You're the dumb of the week number 2. I'm sorry. My brother and I were just so perplexed by this. It's like, what? Literally, the Jazz had this one. They had this game won, but they wound up fumbling the bag. It's like, maybe Will Hardy wants to be maybe Will Hardy's a double agent and he wants to be on the Lakers staff, but dude, man, oh man, I'm sorry. Well, Will Hardy literally cost the Lakers the game, or he cost the Jazz the game. If you're gonna call timeout, make sure you advance it to half court and then drop a play. But don't call timeout when there's like 2 seconds left and one of your top players is ready to drive the lane and score for your team. Like, now you look like an even dumber coach. But I'm sorry. Don't be surprised if Will Hart, no wonder the Utah Jazz is the worst team, one of the worst teams in the NBA. Like, this incompetent dude looks like he could be America's next top model in terms of the men's side. And I guess he had short coaching stints with the San Antonio Spurs and the Boston Celtics as an assistant coach. But dude, this dude is literally bad. He's dumb. And surprisingly, he's been with the team since 2022. I am surprised this dude has lasted this long. But this dude is dumb of the week. I can't believe he gave the Lakers the win. But we will take the win by any means. Or Lakers fans will take the wins by any means. So thank you, Will Hardy. All right, he's dumb of the week, and that's going to end the show. Thank you all for tuning in for the SoCal Supreme Sports Show. I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. If you listen live, I appreciate you. If you listen on the playback, I appreciate you. If you listen at work, I appreciate you. If you listen at any time, any place, anywhere, I greatly appreciate you. I should be back next week. It all depends, but we shall see. Until then, for everyone here at iSports Radio, this is Teran Rodriguez signing off. Have yourself a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy the SoCal sports action. And I will see you Monday, maybe even sooner for Set Point. Have a great week. And remember, SoCal is for SoCal. Peace. I got to take care of my dog real quick.